Let's take a moment and talk about my 5 favorite Wolverine costumes. Coming at number 5 is Weapon X. Not much of a costume, more like Wolverine in his underwear running around with a bunch of contraptions on him. But there is something dark, menacing, and primal of Wolverine in the snow chasing you down with this on. Relentless, unstoppable, and cold-blooded. And it is the Weapon X look's ability to invoke that kind of emotion that gives it the number 5 spot. Coming at number 4 is the Astonishing X-Men Wolverine costume, which is weird because I think the costume came out before Astonishing X-Men, but that's just kind of where it got famous. Regardless, this is a nice evolution of the blue and yellow outfit. There is some rearrangement of where the colors are placed. The underwear is no longer present, and the boots no longer have the pointed sides to them. This invokes a more superhero-esque version of Wolverine, one that is working with the Avengers as well as the X-Men and being that more traditional superhero, while still being the best there is at what he does. And what he does is not pretty. Coming at number 3 is his current costume, the Krakoa brown and yellow. So I was able to put my recency bias aside for this costume, and although it's not as high as I used to have it, it's still a beautiful version of the brown and yellow that is modernized for today's era. I know this is a very basic thing to say, but it feels like the Astonishing X-Men version of that yellow and brown costume, still having that superhero-like flair to it and making the modifications on certain areas, but at the same time still feeling classically Wolverine. The only reason why I don't have it higher right now is because I do feel as though there's too much brown, and I would have liked to see more of a balance between the two, but still, beautiful. I love it. Coming in next is the traditional yellow and blue Wolverine. This is a costume that everyone thinks about when it comes down to Wolverine. The yellow, the blue, the black with the red belt, either having the buckle or having the X on it. This is classic Wolverine. The funny thing is if you think about it, the costume outside of the aesthetic appeal really doesn't make sense. Like, what's the purpose of having the mask be pointed and very large, or the boots being pointed also? And if he has a healing factor, why does he need shoulder pads? But that's the great thing about comic books. Suspension of disbelief and not giving a shit. If it looks cool, then it's cool. And the yellow and blue is a cool costume and one of my favorites. And wrapping things up as my favorite costume is the brown and yellow. Yeah, I know a lot of people like the blue and yellow more. I'm in the minority on this. But there's just something sleek and sexy about the brown and yellow. It almost has a ninja-like appeal to it, adding to that mystique that is Wolverine, because Wolverine did have that shroud of mystery and unpredictability to him, and the costume invokes it. But the costume also had a great balance of the yellow and the brown, and overall it's just a well-designed, beautiful costume, and it's my favorite Wolverine costume. So those are my favorite Wolverine costumes. What's yours? Comment, stitch, duet. I want to know.